Story 1. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my girlfriend because she imitated my dead wife? I, 35 male, was married to Laura for 7 years. We have a son who is 10 now. She was the light of my life. When we were both 28, we found out she had a rare form of cancer. She passed away 5 months later. This crushed me, and I was left drowning in my grief for a long time afterwards. My son and I have been attending therapy weekly ever since. It's been tough, but I feel like we've made a lot of progress. I didn't feel up to another relationship for a while. I filled my time with hobbies, friends, and spending time with my son and family. Then, a little over a year ago, I met Kayla, 33 female, at a work event. We share a hobby that's pretty niche where I live, so we had a great time chatting about it. Eventually, we began to go out together. She's great, but different from my wife. I love her for who she is as an individual. I was hesitant at first, but after speaking with my therapist, I decided to try for a committed relationship if we took it slow. At first, she was amazing. I told her about my past and that my son came first even before our first official date. She was very compassionate and understanding about everything. After a few months of smooth sailing, I decided to introduce her to my son, and they got along great as well. For the first time after Laura's death, I could start to see a possible future with someone else. Everything started to go downhill around 4 months ago. She seemed to be a bit more distant than usual, so I sat down with her one night to ask her what was wrong. She teared up a bit and confessed that she felt I had been neglecting her lately. She then said that she feels like I'm using her as some replacement for my dead wife. This came as a total shock. A part of me will always love Laura, but I didn't feel like I was ignoring Kayla or anything. I asked for some specific examples, but she didn't say much afterwards. I felt guilty that I had made her upset, so I ended up apologizing and arranged for us to have a few more date nights, and she seemed happy again. Then a couple weeks later, she had to go to a cousin's wedding. I couldn't attend because of work, but she was only gone for a day. When she got back, I asked for some pictures, but she just said there hadn't been any of her. I thought it was a bit strange, but didn't pry. Then the next day, a coworker of mine showed me one of a private page on Facebook. I was shocked to see an expensive pair of my wife's earrings on Kayla. In my son's room, there's a small cupboard with pictures of him and his mom, letters from her, and some of her prized jewelry. I checked it as soon as I came home, and the earrings were returned to the cupboard, but in a different spot. I confronted her and she got mad, yelling at me for assuming she'd be so careless as to lose or damage the earrings. I told her I was just hurt she'd go behind my back and take something with sentimental value, even if they were beautiful. She eventually broke down and apologized, and after a serious talk about boundaries, we moved on. Things improved for a while before her strange behavior started. It began with her changing her hair color to match my wife's. My wife had naturally light blonde hair that a lot of women dye their hair to today, so while I thought it was strange, I wrote it off as a beauty choice. Then she began regularly straightening her hair. She was wavy hair, and my wife's hair was pinned straight. She also started to change her clothes to be more like my wife's, or at least the ones she's seen in pictures. She also had her ears double pierced and got a cartilage piercing like my wife. This was all incredibly unnerving, but she just said I was crazy. I'd ask my family, and they said I was nuts too, so I ignored it. Then she brought up having my son call her Mama. I said I wasn't a huge fan of the idea, but if my son wanted it, I suppose it'd be fine. She went on a whole rant about how it was different because he called my wife Mommy, so it's not like she's stealing a title. He said no, and she was a bit cold to both of us for days. She seemed like a different woman than the one I fell in love with. Everyone around me just said I was probably nervous since it was my first relationship after Laura's death. The final straw was when she got a tattoo that was almost the same as my wife's. It was in the same spot, the same color, just with a slightly different design. That was my final straw. I sat her down and confronted her a week ago with everything. At first she denied it all, but then broke down into tears and said I never loved her. She said she felt that she had to live up to the memory of a ghost. This upset me because I had asked her before what I did specifically and she wouldn't discuss it. Plus, she was the one being weird and copying Laura. She kept sobbing and saying I didn't love her. I got so sick of it I yelled at her, saying that if she felt so unloved, we should just break up. I honestly do like her, but I've seen how miserable she's been lately, and I don't think this relationship is good for her mental health. She got dead silent and just left and drove away. I was just so tired of everything. Later that night, she tried to commit self-termination with pills and barely survived. She has no living family, so I was listed as her emergency contact. She wrote a long letter to me saying she loves me so much, but obviously I don't feel the same, and that maybe if she was dead, too, I'd love her even a fraction of how much I loved my dead wife. I'm distraught over this. She's been so strange lately, but before all of this, I did love her. My mom and siblings kept on saying that I'm awful for pushing her to this point, and that instead of ending it, I should have doubled down and reassuring my love for her. They all got along great with her and had been hinting that they wanted us to get married so my son would have a mother again and possibly some siblings. I didn't think I was the a-hole, but my whole family's being cold to me and I have no idea what to do. They're saying I should go visit as soon as possible and support her with this to rekindle our relationship. I'm not sure if I want to do that. She's so unhappy with me and seems obsessed over my dead wife. I keep on thinking over this and wondering if I should have reassured her of my love again or broke up with her in a more tactful way. Am I the a-hole? First off, I do not think that this person is an a-hole. What I do think is that maybe this Kayla that he's started dating or whatever, or been dating, just feels a lot of pressure because going into a relationship, someone who lost their spouse due to death, and not because it's like, no, things didn't work out between us and we weren't getting along and we were unhappy and we weren't in love anymore. It's like, no, he clearly loved his wife a lot and losing her was incredibly hard. That's a lot to live up to, and that's a lot of pressure for a person. Now, I'm not saying she handled it in the right way. It sounds like she might even have some of her own issues, and this just kind of piled onto it. That pressure had her doing things that, she shouldn't have. And I don't necessarily think pushing her away was the right choice. I think, boy, I'm a broken record about it, but therapy, there's some serious issues going on, both on the poster side for the trauma of dealing with losing his wife, and for this person trying to live up to this deceased wife in some ways and never feeling like she's good enough. She might be great, but this is just that one issue that she is not handling well at all. And you might think you're reassuring her, but maybe doing things that you don't realize or just things that she's interpreting wrong or something. Who knows? But I think if you do care about this person, that it would be worthwhile to enter into some couples therapy or something, talk things out, get a unbiased third party that can actually give you some perspective and advice, because it seems like a good relationship otherwise, just a little troubled. Story 2. Today I effed up by unintentionally flashing my sisters. The title is pretty much self-explanatory. Context: yesterday, my husband was coming home from California since he travels back and forth between there and Oklahoma for his job, so I wanted to give him a little surprise for when he came home since he was gone for a few days. Now, the surprise was me pulling a Margot Robbie when she was in Wolf of Wall Street and appearing before him in my birthday suit when he came back home to set the mood so we could do the deed. What I did not know was that he had a little surprise for me too, in the form of my sisters who came with him from California to visit me since I hadn't seen them in a long, long time. So you can imagine the awkwardness when I walked out into our living room fully nude, and the even more awkward silence that followed when I just stood there for 5 seconds before heading back to my room to get some clothes on before heading back out to greet them. Needless to say, I'm very happy to see them, but very embarrassed by the miscommunication between me and my husband that led to the situation that happened. You're all adults. They'll get over it. Come on, it's, if this is the most embarrassing thing that happens to you your whole life, then count yourself lucky. I think it's fine, and I'm sure that they understand too, it's like you're trying to do something from your husband, didn't realize it did not work out okay. Hopefully you'll all have a laugh about it in a year or something like that. I wouldn't let it get you down. I will say, if there is anything that could be used as the ultimate promotion for buying a little video doorbell camera thing, this is it, because you could have been like, oh, is that him coming in the door? Wait, my sisters are there too. I'm going to put a robe on. Seriously, I'm telling you, I know People get worried about like, someone's going to steal my information. But what's worse? Some big company stealing your video information? Or your siblings seeing your peaches and cream, huh? Just saying. Story 3. Found out I, 32 female, was the other woman in the beginning of my relationship, 29 male. I can't talk to anyone about this, feeling hurt and disappointed, so here I am. When I met my now husband, I wasn't looking to date. He showed up unexpectedly in my life. We met at work, and our coworkers could see we liked each other. We had undeniable chemistry, had several similar interests, and connected on so many levels. Communicating came naturally between us, and we could talk for hours about anything. I wasn't looking for anyone, yet I found someone who I could be honest and open with. He understood me in ways no one else had. He was upfront about how he could not communicate his emotions and feelings, about how he was terrible at communicating his feelings, but with me, it came to him easily. It seemed to be the only healthy relationship I'd ever been in. Or so I thought. When we were still fresh on dating, a friend who was very overprotective over me showed me his Twitter, which he had pictures with who assumed and looked to be his girlfriend. I confronted him about it. He said it was his ex. They had just broken up about a month before we started dating, and she would not let go. It was a toxic relationship, and the breakup was ugly. She would constantly accuse him of cheating. She was very jealous and lazy. He swore he no longer had contact with her, and it was me he wanted to be with. Didn't make a big deal about it because it happened before me, therefore it's none of my business. We were honest with each other, and I trusted him completely. Our relationship progressed as we lived together and got engaged. However, my friend, being the protective person, found some stuff on her page and forwarded it to me. Turns out he went on a trip with his ex-girlfriend the same weekend we started talking. I flipped out, but tried to keep my cool. When I asked him about it, he confessed it was true, but because the trip was already planned before we got together and he had some personal business to take care of. I believed him since it was a trip back to his hometown. He assured me they were not together during this trip. He was with his family and she was with her friends. I gave him the benefit of the doubt and moved on from it. We got married, and just a few months later, we found out we were expecting. He made sure nothing could put me at risk of any danger with our unborn baby. He took care of everything around the house with cooking, cleaning, laundry, and not letting me drive when we'd go to work. Whatever I needed, he'd do it without hesitation. I gave birth to our beautiful baby, and I couldn't be happier. As I was recovering, there he was, making sure the baby and I were good. Still taking care of the household as well as helping me with the baby. One night I couldn't sleep. Both he and the baby were sound asleep. I was looking at old pictures he sent me when we started dating. I found the feature that tells you the location of the picture and saw the location where the pictures were taken. The address on those pictures was taken at her house. My blood began to boil. Not only was I recovering from childbirth and dealing with postpartum depression, I found out he was at her house when he wasn't with me during that time. Again, I asked him about it. He tells me I didn't want to tell him he was at her house because he'd dog sit for her. He knew I'd get upset and would want to end the relationship. He apologized and promised there were no more lies. Took me some time to get over it, but eventually I got fed up with him getting caught lying to me, so I decided to hack his email. Broke my heart to see he did cheat several times during that relationship. He lied about his business during that trip. It was a couple's vacation with reservations where he referred to her as his wife. He was still living with her when we started dating. The first time we were intimate, they were still together. He made me the other woman. From that day, all my memories from the beginning are tainted. Those nights he said he got home safe, he was with her. Maybe I might be overthinking or feeling this way because I'm still postpartum. I know how it feels to be cheated on because my partner found someone else and didn't have the decency to tell me they no longer wanted a relationship. I know how much it hurts when your partner leaves you for someone else. Now I feel as if I was manipulated into this relationship. My choice to stay or leave with those circumstances was taken from me. Don't get me wrong, I love my husband and my son with all my heart, but I can't help but feel this way. Has anyone else left this way? The hardest part is that he has had multiple chances to come clean about this. Like maybe if that's how the relationship started, but he came clean about stuff, you could have worked through all of that and things could have been okay. But it's a fact that you had to hit him with stuff 3 separate times. And every time he still lied. And that just it goes from being something that you could have potentially worked on and just been this bad start, this rough patch. And it's now just him lying to you the whole relationship. And every time he's like, that's it. I promise. No more lies. Even though you now have the truth about all that, how the hell do you trust him about anything else at this point? He so confidently keeps telling you that he's not lying when he's lying. Yeah, I wouldn't trust this person anymore. So I can't blame you for feeling that way, and I am so sorry that you do. Person who posts this, you seem like a very nice, trusting person, and I hope this does not affect the way that you trust people in the future, but I think we all know it probably will, because it certainly would for me. Story 4. IT Pro Revenge on Cheating Wife. This took place before smartphones were omnipresent. I had a friend, we'll call him Bob, who was suspicious of his wife's social circle. One of her closest friends had been caught cheating and tried to throw her under the bus as well. Bob had no proof, and things settled down for a while. Bob was an IT professional and very, very good with PCs and networks. Nearly a year later, Bob's wife is acting shady again after her high school reunion. He confides in me, and we talk through some scenarios. He jokingly mentioned a keylogger. He finally asked me to just drop it, and most of all, don't tell anyone, not even your wife. A couple of months pass, and I'm up early, 5:30 to 6, getting ready for work. I get a Facebook Messenger notification and see that I've been sent a link from Bob, but it's a group chat. It's everyone we know, her family, his family, our friends, strangers, everyone. I didn't open it. It looked like a phishing link, even though it came from him, who's extremely cautious. A short while later, I get an email from Bob with some ominous/unsavory comments in the same link. It's a group email with the receipts openly copied to his wife's work, her family, her friends, his family, and other people I didn't know. I knew it was legitimate now, so I opened it. The link was to a hastily made website containing pictures and videos of his wife and another man. This wasn't hidden camera footage, it was screenshots including video screen captures. Weeks worth of screenshots. He had captioned each item with snarky comments and colorful names for his wife and her lover. It was an embarrassing amount of evidence. Videos of her masturbating with her lover, chat logs about how they can't wait to intercourse again, solo masturbation videos of her and him, tons of pictures, and the straw that broke the camel's back, trash-talking her husband to her lover. Comments about how much bigger and better he was. Her efforts to stroke her lover's ego were especially hurtful. I dropped what I was doing and called him. He was drunk and combative. He had been up all night making the website and drowning in liquor. Not one good word to say about women in general. He was extremely emotional, but after some work, I convinced him to take the website down before it did irreparable damage to his marriage, their careers, and his children. As he's sobbing and logging in to remove the website, I hear loud yelling as she bursts into the room. A screaming match ensues, and there's nothing I can do to pull him back. Her mother or sister saw the page and blew up her phone until she woke up and answered. She saw the website and went on the offensive. The phone call drops after 30 seconds of her screaming while Bob is calling her a W, and I can't contact him again. The website was still up for the rest of the day, and he was kind enough to put a view counter on it. Hundreds of people watched her masturbating with a married former classmate. Bob had done his homework. He installed a keylogger that records the whole screen. When he was out, she would log into the PC and/or Facebook and play with her boyfriend. Bob had found her lover, his family, his wife's family, his job, etc., etc. All these people were included in the Facebook and email groups. I do not know what became of her lover and his marriage, but I do know what happened to Bob's life. His wife was desperate to make amends. She tried and offered everything. In the end, it was her comments about her lover and his prowess that were her undoing. Bob tried to take her back, even after all his friends and family had seen her naked and cheating, but he couldn't get over the comments about his manhood. Bob eventually left her, gained about 100 pounds, and then finally moved as far away as possible and became a horrible human being. I have no idea what he's doing now, as he went scorched earth with most friendships in his family. She's gross and has a face shaped like a bowling ball now. Lines form at the rear. I am no supporter of cheaters and all that kind of stuff. I absolutely believe that they're going to get what they deserve a lot of the time. However, posting what essentially amounts to revenge adult images is not a smart move, Bob. It's not a great way to handle it. Like, absolutely be mad. Absolutely break things off with her and all that other kind of stuff, confront her, whatever, talk to her, separate. Don't post revenge images like that, because that stuff is pretty illegal and also just not cool. Like, I get it. What she did, also super not cool. Very, very bad. But if you're going after someone and just trying to destroy them like that, it also makes me question, like, how much did you love this person to begin with? I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting overwhelmed with all the revenge stories about cheaters and stuff like that, but some of these folks, the way they go after them, like, I get that they cheated, and I would be mad too, for sure, but wowzers, some folks, they take it to an extreme that just makes me kind of think, like, I don't know if you were ever in love to begin with, if you're gonna go down this road. I mean, be hurt, be mad, but maybe don't let it become your villain origin story. Story 5. My 27 male ex-girlfriend, 26 female, wants to try again. My ex-girlfriend and I first got together 6 years ago, and from day one, we got on like two peas in a pod. Then, after 2.5 years together, she fell pregnant. We had spoken about kids before, and we both wanted a family, but not after just 2 years together. We spoke about it a lot, asked a few of our friends that already have kids, and eventually decided to go for it. We also agreed that even if our relationship doesn't last, our child's well-being would always come first. Right before the lockdown in 2020, 3 weeks before the due date, we welcomed a perfect little girl, and both of us were completely infatuated. It was a big adjustment, but our girl was an angel, and we settled into parenthood rather quickly. Everything was great at first, but 3 months later it all changed. I was working late when I got a text from my mother to tell my mom's girlfriend dropped our daughter off with her while she ran some errands, but 4 hours later she hadn't returned, and now she wasn't answering her phone. I called too, but she didn't answer me either. I got out of work, collected my daughter, and went to find a note from my girlfriend. She said that she couldn't handle the stress of lockdown and the baby, and she just needed some time to clear her head. She also said not to call and that we would talk soon, but days turned to weeks with no contact from her or anyone else other than her sister, who visited her niece often but never mentioned my girlfriend. Fast forward 3 years, and my ex-girlfriend is slowly starting to reach out again. It was slow at first, liking photos of our girl on Instagram and the odd comment, but that was it until last week. She sent me a text saying that she had seen how well our daughter and I are doing and asked if we could meet up. I was reluctant, but before we agreed, before our daughter was born, that her well-being is what mattered the most, so reluctantly, I agreed to meet for a coffee so she can see our girl, but I'm having second thoughts. How do I forgive her for walking out on me and, more importantly, on our daughter? That's a rough one. That is a very rough one, and I would say that I think you would be in your right to not want to give a second chance, or at least be very cautious about doing so and extremely slow moving forward in doing so, because 3 years, I mean, that's rough. But it also sounds like, I mean, what, you're both in your 20s or something, right? Who knows? Like, she might have been ill-prepared, a little immature, and the lockdown, that messed with a lot of us. That was a rough time. A lot of us made some mistakes, and hers just happened to be kind of in a pretty extreme one. And also, maybe she was dealing with like postpartum depression and didn't know how to turn to someone or what to do. Not saying what she did is, excusable, but there may be reasons. And, whether or not you're willing to forgive that is kind of totally a you thing. Like, I think that this could be something that she could have worked on or could still be working on. You could work on it together. If you still have feelings, it might be worth pursuing, but definitely be cautious. Take it kind of slow and everything. But yeah, really just comes down to what you want. And I think whether or not you want to give her another chance, either way you decide to go, I can't fault you one little bit. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.